Well, it's officially midsummer. July 4th has passed us and the water temps are up into the 70s, and that's got the fish really, really aggressive. Hey, I came back out here to Devil's Lake this week. I was out here earlier this year for the pike bite, but I'll tell you, I couldn't pass up coming back out here for the bite that's going on right now. Stay right where you're at. There's some great walleye action coming up on Fish Ed. With all these boats going to these tube rod systems, these Lindy rod socks are so important. And what's really cool about them is they come in 3 different sizes. You can slide these things in and out of your tubes without having to worry about breaking an eye. Oh yeah, that one's got a little juice in him. That's one thing about the bait I'm using today, is it, for some reason, has just proven to be one of those baits that just flat out makes fish attack it. And that is a great walleye to start my day right there. Look at that one. Let me show you what I'm doing today, because the odds are you have not seen a bait like what I'm using, unless you've seen it in some magazines or purchased one here just recently. This is the all-new Lindy Lil Guy. Look at that. It's a great way to start our day right there. I'm gonna throw this guy in the live well and then I'll show you that bait, because I'll tell you what, this thing is something special. I'm always excited when I get the chance to fish these, because the bites these things create are just unbelievable. I mean, that fish came up and just drilled it. But this is what it is. It's called the Lil Guy. And what it is it's a 36-inch snell. Now this is 14-pound fluorocarbon. All right, so this thing can stand up to the teeth that these fish are gonna put on this thing. So whether it's pike or walleye or whatever it may be. But then what we have is we have a crawler harness, and this thing is tied in such a way that we have a lot of distance in between the hooks. That's gonna make sure that we can get that hook in the back of the crawler. Then the other thing that we have is beads that all kind of match the color of the bodies. But this body is a plastic. And what this thing does is it runs like a crankbait in the water, but it also floats. So this little body will attract them from a distance and actually look like a crankbait in the water, but I'm running it down at crawler harness speed, and that just makes them attack it. Now, one other thing that's really cool about how you can fish this thing is because this little body floats, when I'm pulling this thing back behind that bottom bouncer, a lot of times I'll just set it down. Where a spinner would drop into the bottom at that point and be ineffective, what happens is this little guy actually floats up. And when this thing floats up, if there's a fish following it, they just attack it. And that's exactly what happened on that fish right there. I'm gonna get back in the water, because I'll tell you what, I guarantee you, we're gonna catch a lot of fish on these things today. And because we're out here at Devil's Lake, we get to fish 2 lines. So I got one out over here trying some different colors too. That is the neat thing about these gloves. I just picked that fish up. I didn't have them break any of my hooks. That one just come up and smacked it when I stopped it. Ooh, let's hope this is an eye. If it is, oh yeah, it's a good one. Good walleye, look at that one. All right. Boy, that was a great example of what I was talking about earlier though. I stopped that bait, set that bottom bouncer on the bottom, and as soon as I lifted, this walleye was there and he just drilled it. And that's what these fish will do with this bait. You know, it's a hybrid. It's kind of between a crankbait and a spinner. And it's everything that a walleye or a pike attacks. You know, when they hit a crankbait, they come a long ways and they slash and they nail it. They do the same thing on a spinner to a certain point. Look at that, that's a dynamite eye right there. But you put the 2 of them together and you slow this thing down, because I can go a little slower than crankbait speed, but yet I can go a little bit faster than spinner speed. It's the perfect bait for that neighborhood of, you know, maybe 1 to 1.5, 1.6 miles an hour, and it just catches fish. That's awesome. Throw him in there. We are set up on classic mid-lake structure now. This is an old road bed here that I'm fishing today, and the fish are just stacked up on the windy side. The wind is actually going down, and that got me a little bit nervous. So what I'm starting to do is work off the edges a little bit. Earlier today when we first pulled in here, the wind was blowing a little bit harder and those fish were right up on top. Now I'm just working that north edge of it and I'm going back and forth on the windy side and I'm catching them pretty good. All said and done though, that's what you want to look for. Now you're looking for that mid-lake stuff. We're into the 70s, we're in summertime patterns, and these fish are going to be out roaming stuff other than the shoreline stuff they were on last time we were out here. That one feels like just a good walleye. They hit it and they mean business. Another great eye. Look at that. Oh! I missed him. I was close. I almost got him. Another great fish. Got him. That feels like another pretty good one. He's another great eater. Get that guy in here. Boy, that right there is a great way to wrap up the day. Let's do this. Let me give you a couple tips about how to fish this bait, because look at that, he got himself unhooked for us. That's a great walleye right there. But because that bait's brand new, and I know most of you will be buying it and trying it for the first time, there's a couple things I want to show you about it and tell you. Number one is what I'm doing a lot of the time here is I'm pinching off my crawler right behind that second hook. The reason I'm doing that is because we have so much space in between these hooks, and by the time you put that body here, if you left that full crawler back here, that's an awful big meal, and too often they'll come up and grab the back end of it and you won't get a hook in them. So all I'm doing is I'm pinching that thing off about an inch behind the back hook. The other thing I'm doing is I'm putting constant movement down there. Now when you're working this thing, you're actually, even on monofilament, when you pull that thing forward, if you're at a 45-degree angle, you're gonna feel the wobble just like in a crankbait. I'm doing a lot of work in that bait. Then every now and then I'll just put it in the rod holder. But if you notice, I've caught more fish today on the handheld rod, and that's because I'm putting constant action on the bait. This is gonna be a great bait no matter where you fish. So I don't care if you're fishing Mille Lacs, Lake of the Woods, Winnebago, or out here in the Dakotas, it doesn't matter. This thing is gonna catch fish wherever you go, and we've done it for the last year. So make sure you pick a few of these Lindy Lil'Guys up, give them a shot, because they're gonna catch a ton of fish for you, and they're a lot of fun. One last thing, when they hit it, don't feed them line. Just drop the rod tip a hair and set the hook, and he'll be there every time. I'm Jon Thelen. We'll catch you next time.